Winters, I hear you ask, what is this Arks of Omen things? Is it important? Well, yes, it is important, and they're weaponized space hulks. Abaddon is launching the next phase of his mega massive operation to destroy the galaxy, and he's using weaponized space hulks. The way to think about it is the Great Rift wasn't the end of his plans, ripping the galaxy in two and forging his own empires in Imperium Nihilus. No, that was just the start. And here we are on to the next step in the 40k story. The last time the story moved forward was the Great Rift and the fall of Cadia, and this time round it is the Arks of Omen. Arks of Omen Abaddon is the first book, and there's some very, very significant juicy lore nuggets in it, and I can't wait to see what else comes along in the series. So if you're a lore master and interested in any of this sort of thing, then you definitely need this book. So how is he able to weaponize space hulks? And if you don't know what space hulks are, well, they're hundreds of kilometers across, some of them, and they're mashed together bits of space junk that have been floating around in the galaxy for tens of thousands, if not millions of years. It's not just Imperial tech in there, it's Xenos tech and tech during the golden age of exploration, and Xenos tech from millions of years ago, species that have been wiped out and are long extinct, all mashed together, along with some asteroids, and gravity wells sort of pull them, all this junk together every now and then, spit them into the warp, spit them out of the warp, stuff like that. They're very deadly, very big, and if they fall on planets, they kill them. No one's been able to tame them before, but there is a new kid on the block, a new chaos power that we hadn't heard about before, called Vashtorr the Arkifane. Vashtorr wants to become the 5th chaos god. And he's grown in power over the millions of years because he's the god of machines. He's the god of demon engines. He's the god of cold logic. He's the mind of the scientist who thinks about what could be done, not what should be done. He's the mind of the engineer that develops exterminatus weapons rather than a new way to flush lavatories. He's the guy who goes too far. And billions of years ago, at the very early stages of the universe, there wasn't very many machines. But now we are in the grim darkness of the far future. Every race is technologically advanced, and every race has access to stuff that can wipe out planets or star systems or things like that. And he's just grown and grown and grown and grown in power. And he's the arms dealer of the dark gods. He supplies all 4 of the dark gods, so they all need his power, they all need his skills and knowledge, but so he's allied to all of them, sort of, friends with none of them, sort of. He has his own place in the warp where there are these soul forges, where he binds souls into demon engines and makes soul grinders and calamity engines and infernal bombards and things like that. And he's as sure a sign, as sure as any, that we're going to get Dark Mechanicum at some point in the near future. So this guy's turned up and has decided to ally with Abaddon the Spoiler. Why is he allied with Abaddon the Spoiler? Well, there is an artifact out there called the Key, and the Key is made up of loads of different bits all across the galaxy. It's a MacGuffin, this Key, and both Vashtorr and Abaddon have seen it as something of great power. It's that can activate a weapon which will change the fate of the galaxy. And Vashtorr very much wants this weapon activated to change the fate of the galaxy because it will assure his ascension to the 5th chaos god. And Abaddon very much wants this key to the weapon that will change the fate of the galaxy because that's what he's all about. That's been his MO for the last 10,000 years. And he's had scryers and sorcerers looking into this key idea, this prophecy, which has been banging around for some time. But then Vashtorr turns up and he says, I know exactly where the bits of the key are, the little bits of artifacts here, there, and all over the place. And I can help you get all the little bits of the keys here or there and then build the artifact. And so him and Abaddon are now allies. So Vashtorr tames space hulks. Not quite as simple as that, because space hulks are very, very deadly places to be. But Vashtorr, basically, in order to get all the little bits for the key for this artifact to unlock the MacGuffin of great and powerful power, you can do Vashtorr says, look, you can get a few bits through subterfuge, you can get a few bits by dropping in some spies here or there, or go to an abandoned world here or there, but some of it, lies in a Necron's tomb world. Some of it lies in the middle of an Orc WoW, where they've taken over entire sectors of space. Some of it lies on Imperial Shrine world. Some of it lies deep in the heart of the Imperium. So it's going to take nothing short of massive, massive military intervention to try and get every single bit of the MacGuffin. So in order to do this, Vashtorr has weaponized Space Hulks, and he's perhaps the only being in the entire galaxy that can. So once they round up a bunch of different Space Hulks in Imperial Nihilus, and Vashtorr goes to work. They're cleansed. It takes massive war fleets to cleanse each and every Space Hulk. And some of that cleansing process goes really badly. This is not a straight line. But once some of them are cleansed, or at least the most deadly parts of the Space Hulk are locked off, Vashtorr is able to he's able to waken all the machines inside of the Space Hulk by this, it's called ganglioxis. Where is it? Gangliaxis, flesh metal gangliaxis. A bit like having a neural connection running all the way through, like neurons in a brain. He's able to put these brains inside these Space Hulks, and if you were to walk inside one of the Arks of Omen, you'll see these metallic pulses and sinews running all the way through the different parts of all the different ships. And that allows it all to function as one particular ship. It also allows some of the old tech to turn back on again, some neuro-shredding weapons, some void-discharging stuff, some ancient technology from the Dark Age of technology, or even ancient or a primordial Xenos tech inside of there. It allows the Space Hulk to function as one whole. And these gangliaxos are like neural connections, are like parts of the circuit board which pull the Ark of Omen, the Space Hulk, together as one big fighting thing. And then there's other bits in there. There's wardings to ward off all the chaos stuff. There's a warp portal inside every single Ark of Omen. There's an obelisk. Each Ark of Omen that Vashtorr is able to manufacture, is able to adopt and adapt, has all of these things in it. It has the flesh metal stuff running through, it has the warp portals running through, it has wardings in it, and it has the obelisk, which turns them into, each of them, into a mini Astronomicon, a mini beacon shining in the warp, so other ships can use it to guide by. But the most important thing that he stuck inside each of the Arks of Omen, at the very center of the ship, is the ferryman. Each of them has a ferryman inside, at the neuro point where all the flesh metal ganglioxos meets. And this allows, it's a demon mind that navigates through the warp for Abaddon, or for whoever the captain is of each Ark of Omen. And these demon minds, these demon presences, with an obelisk inside, with this little Astronomicon beacon inside, can pop up here or there or wherever they want to, and even cross the Great Rift. So no longer you have to follow the Nachman Gauntlet or the Vigilus Gauntlet or any of that type of stuff. These ships can now just cross the Great Rift. It's not an easy task when they do it, but at least they can do it. And then with their own Astronomicon beacon, with their own obelisk flickering away, other ships can follow with them. So suddenly we have massive weaponized Space Hulks crossing the Great Rift at will, appearing Imperial systems or Orc systems or Eldar systems or Necro systems at will, hundreds of kilometers across. Perhaps there's bigger than the Phalanx itself, which is the largest ship in the Imperium, smashing apart planets, smashing apart systems in order to get a nugget, a tiny piece of an artifact, and then sending it back to Abaddon. So Abaddon's trying to find a key to a weapon which will change the fate of the galaxy, and the prophecy that is written in the book is it's very vague. There is a vague reference to Angron. I believe there's a vague reference to the Emperor as well, and the end of the Imperium, and there's also a vague reference to Lionel Johnson. It's all very vague, the prophecy, but it's all very nasty. And indeed, they make it very clear that when the Arks of Omen started floating across the Great Rift and appearing in the Imperium, that the entire Imperium was thrown into chaos and anarchy, that these ships leave nothing but destruction in their wake, and each of the Arks of Omen is as powerful as an entire fleet. Indeed, each of them is a match for one of the Indomitus Crusade fleets, and each of them is controlled by someone who's very loyal to Abaddon. Abaddon gives him one of these Space Hulks, says, right, I need that bit of the MacGuffin over there, you go get it, send it back through the warp portal for me, and then you can keep hold of it. Yeah, chaos, confusion, bad days for the Imperium, but things have also gone not as well as Abaddon would have hoped. So he's upset lots of aliens as well. Orcs, Necrons, Eldar, things like that. They're all fighting back. Of course, some Chaos Lords are fighting against each other once they've done their task and retrieved a bit of MacGuffin here or there. And some Arks of Omen they weren't entirely cleared out from whatever deep, dark nastiness resided in their core, which may have been living in there for millions of years. Some of them have been found drifting dead in the void. Indeed, Dante of the Blood Angels led an assault against one near Baal and found it dead and done, and whatever was in it isn't in it anymore. It's 40k. Things aren't as simple as I get these Space Hulks and throw them at the Imperium, because he's not just throwing them at the Imperium, he's throwing them wherever he needs to throw them to get the bits of the key which will change to unlock a weapon which will change the fate of the entire galaxy. That's the core of the lore that's locked in the first book, Abaddon. Momentous things are happening in the 41st millennium. The timeline is moving forward. So if you're interested in the lore at all and you want first-hand copies of the most significant thing to happen in the 41st millennium since the fall of Cadia, then you're going to want to get your hands on this book series. I should also mention that in the back half of the book, there's rules for boarding actions, and boarding actions are skirmish level missions on Space Hulks in Warhammer 40k, games of 500 points or less. And what they've done here is awesome. Essentially, it's a mission pack. You still follow the Warhammer 40k rules, but follow the mission pack rules for boarding actions. So you don't bring any stratagems, warlord traits, or relics from your codex. You pick an army of 500 points or less, and the army is always like elites and troops and a HQ. That's it. And you pick your warlord trait and your stratagems from this book, and there's 3 core stratagems in this book, and there's a bunch of different warlord traits in this book. They don't call them warlord traits, but they are warlord traits from the book, and then a couple of different rules when you play these missions, and that's it. And at 500 points or less, with all the relics and all the stuff and all the nasty stuff gone from the codex, all the complexity from the codex, you can easily knock out 2, 3, 4 of these missions in an evening with a friend. And I like that. So they've deliberately made the rules as accessible as they can be, and they said they'll be expanding on the rules for boarding actions as the Arks of Omen series continues. Not only do I think it's a really good rule system, I hope that it's in the main big rule book when the big rule book comes out, because it'll be a very good way of introducing people to Warhammer 40k. Hey, here's a mission pack where you don't have to worry about all your stratagems, all your relics, all your warlord traits, and all that stuff from your codex. Just grab your data sheets and pick a warlord trait from inside this book here and play a mission of 500 points or less in the claustrophobic confines of a Space Hulk. It's 2 thumbs up from me. It's a perfect way to teach someone the rules and how to play a game of Warhammer 40k. And it's also a great way to knock out a couple of games of 40k in one gaming session without layers of complexity weighing you down. Just beer and pretzels, Warhammer 40k. I like it. And that's why I think it should be in the main rulebook. It's a different way of playing 40k, a casual way of playing 40k. And if it was in the main rulebook and they celebrated it enough and supported it enough, I think it would really take off. Okay, so that's Abaddon, Arks of Omen, Book 1. In my opinion, it's definitely the best thing that they've released in 9th edition so far. I'm excited to see where the story goes. I'm excited to play some boarding action missions. What do you think? Please comment below. And if you'd like to support me, then consider becoming a channel member. Happy wargaming.